This is the 10th message that mankind has received from the future. Or is it the future as we usually think of it? We're not so sure now after the last message. It might be something even more astounding. But there does seem to be an event called the Big Change, and we do appear to be there as the messages in the form of newsletters, not intended for us but for their own time, are being simultaneously written and broadcast in a way that would never have been thought possible before. Disorienting, to say the least, by an organization called the Society, causing several of our scientists researching it to be taken ill by an unknown malady. The message. Okay, back to normal, or at least as normal as it gets these days, especially around here. For those of you who haven't already guessed, the letters in our celebrated column are meant to be read in order. They're not for those who like to dip here and there, who can't get a piece of bread in their hands without looking around for something to dip it in. What? Craig thinks I made a logical error there. Well, that's just too bad. We've received a batch of letters this time that speaks for itself. Craig is putting a hand up to the back of his ear to listen. So, letters only this issue. Letter. I mean, you're an EPZ, aren't you? A what? Craig says the initials stand for an export processing zone. He says we're also called an enclave. He's still trying to figure out what these things are. Be sure and keep us informed, Craig. Hee. Letter. So, what do you folks think of mumblecore? Good question. We're still trying to figure out Stanislavsky. No, Craig, we don't want to hear about Maria Ouspenskaya again. Letter. Why is the French horn just called the horn now, while the English horn is still called the English horn? This letter is from another of friend Craig's Francophile friends. It is too. You can see Craig's tongue pressing against his cheek. I wish I had a camera. Letter. What I really like about being old is people don't expect much of you. Hee. Letter. I'm like, why doesn't the Hungarian language have gendered pronouns? Because those who devised the language were smart. Beep. Alert. I've been told that this needs to be dealt with now. Sorry. It's been pointed out by our pointing out committee. We enjoy calling them that. It's not their official name by any means. That I should mention our current specialty, existential dread. We teach how it can be useful as a grammar school study guide as well as for ball monitors on the playground. Is that it? All right, back to the letters. Letter. I'll tell you what, I've always been asked what drove me to become rich. The truth is, I love to receive gifts and notice that people give you gifts if you're rich. So, I decided to become rich. And we give you a hand for sharing it with us. Your motive, that is. Letter. First, I hear that we're the most powerful country. Then I hear that we have to stand up to the enemy like they're more powerful. That doesn't make sense. Craig says that it does if you want to increase military spending. Letter. Yo, I'd like to get credit for stuff, right? Will it keep me out of the good person category? Just the opposite. When someone like you refuses to take credit for something, it makes you an even better person than someone who doesn't care about getting credit in the first place. Iteration, iteration. Is it over? Oh, I'm told that it is, and that it was another actual iteration of the big change. Nothing looks different to me around here. The offices in the immediate vicinity. Yes, Craig, of course it wouldn't if we'd forgotten what it looked like before. Yes, we're in the middle of a newsletter, apparently. Craig thinks that things are different now in a way that he can't quite define yet. But nobody else seems to notice. Letter. How did the British get ahead of the other European powers when it came to offshore accounts for the rich? Oh boy, Craig. It started when common law was introduced into Britain with the Norman invasion in 1099. The rest of Europe was still governed by Roman civil law, which tells you what you can do, and everything else is prohibited. Common law, on the other hand, tells you what you can't do, meaning everything else is okay. Common law is more flexible than Roman civil law and let the British manipulate facets of ownership to allow for offshore accounts, tax free, that the wealthy and corporations can use to save money. Hee hee. Craig doesn't like it when the British are the smart ones. What? He says that it came back to bite them when it caused England itself to have to cut back for lack of tax revenue. The welfare state began to be dismantled. People became poorer. Public services were curtailed. He says it was the boomerang effect of colonialism predicted by the Martinican poet Aime Cesaire, who was a critic of colonialism. Martinique was French, of course, right, Craig? He says yes. Huh. In 1950, Cesaire wrote, American high finance considers that the time has come to raid every colony in the world. Craig somehow manages to have an answer for everything. Huh. Letter. So, first I can't find this, then I can't find that. Right? What exactly is going on? Promising work is currently being done on the degree of findability in objects. Craig says, what about their forgettability? Yes, work is being done on that too. Letter. I mean, one thing I like, right, is the return of the commanding voice, right? Some time back, a change began that started a chain of inhibitions reaching clear up to our very business leaders. The captains of industry, finance, and what have you became downright afraid to let their dignity show, lest they be openly vilified. Most of that is worn off by now, and those wonderful tones of stunning inner strength, serenity, and resolve, instantly commanding our respect, have returned with a vengeance. Would let freedom ring be too strong an expression to describe this glorious resurgence? No wonder school kids are flocking into the business departments. Craig sneeringly says the money doesn't hurt either. Leave it to him to rain on the parade. Uh-oh, I left myself open. The little divil said it wouldn't exactly be rain. No, Craig, we don't want to hear exactly what exactly it would be. No, don't show us either. Craig. Letter. I'm trying to improve my mental health. by not apologizing or showing chagrin when not being ready to pay cashiers, even when causing a wait for those behind me. We'll add that letter to our life strategies file. Letter. Do you have a high class section there at the Society's great headquarters building where people like me can feel comfortable? We have a large room designed like the patio outside of a country club clubhouse overlooking the 18th green on the golf course with shade umbrellas that members can sit under sipping cocktails as they watch a film on the wall of players finishing up. Letter. I heard that you think of citizens as customers. Craig, did you write this letter? Craig, where is that little social pariah? Letter. I've heard that the society business is conducted at a tiki bar. Yes, ours is on the third floor. Here's Craig. He says that it makes us sound like an anarcho startup society trying to replace the nation state. But we're not. Yes, Craig, they just have to take my word for it. Letter. I've heard of charter cities, but I've never heard of charter schools until the other day. What are they exactly? They're just regular schools. Before the big change, they were called private schools. That was when there was something called public schools. We don't know what they were anymore. Well, we don't, Craig, not exactly. Letter. See, I read a story, right, about somebody whose wheels came off and somebody else whose pedal was to the metal, right? And it definitely had nothing to do with, like, cars. I mean, my guess is that it's either postmodern or connected with Area 51. Like, what do you folks think, right? We sent this letter up to our literature department and got the following response. There's no question about it anymore. Stories that seem to be about one thing are more often than not about another. And it's been discovered that postmodern stories were there already, lurking around and often disguised, even during modernism's salad years. If there's a better explanation for it than Area 51, we sure don't know what the heck it is. Craig says he does. Not with that snicker on your face, you don't. Letter. I'll kind of disagree with you on occasion, but that's okay. You think?